Very happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Thank you to tuning in for another edition of the All Cardinals podcast. My name is Donnie, Druin, joined every week by my co-host Richie Bradshaw. Richie, I love Valentine's Day. I have eaten way too much candy, but that's not why we're here. Not why we are here at all. As the title suggests, the Arizona Cardinals have hired a new head coach. Finally, after 36 days of waiting, who's counting? Jonathan Gannon, the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator. Before we get into it, go to comment, like, subscribe, all the other good stuff. Follow us on Twitter. Check us out at si.com/NFL/Cardinals or allcardinals.com, whatever floats your boat. Richie, my guy, let's get right into it. How do you feel?
I love it. I think this is a really, really good hire. I understand people are upset that it took so long, but we also have to keep in mind that the Eagles just went to the Super Bowl, and there were bigger things on Gannon's mind than interviewing for a head coaching opportunity. He was preparing for an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, which is about as big as it gets in the football world for
Sure.
winning a title. So there naturally were some things, and Bidwell's also worrying about making sure everything is perfect for the Super Bowl, and Bidwell's also having to host everyone that's coming to the big game, and there were so many things and moving parts that were going on, and the last thing you want to do is announce a coaching hire for a guy who's about to play in a Super Bowl and take away your spotlight and cause distractions and everything else. So to me, I understand why it took so long. I still think this is a really, really good hire, Donnie. I'm excited about it. I wish more Cardinal fans would be excited about it, but unfortunately, he left a very bad taste in everyone's mouth, and that is just the product of recency bias, my friend. It's not what you've done, it's what have you done lately.
No, absolutely. And to quote a good friend, Connor Dreo, she said at our Super Bowl party, people are acting like it was a job interview for Jonathan Gannon, and it wasn't.
Right.
It absolutely was not. But let's take people through the timeline of all that is happening. Per Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated, Monty Ossenfort last summer, before he even got a general manager job, pieced together 10 to 12 candidates of potential head coaches in the event that if he were to get a promotion to GM, that he would like to talk to or he would like to hire. Gannon was at the very top of his list. The Cardinals, under Michael Bidwell, did not want to get a head coach until they had a general manager. Now, they hired Monty Ossenfort, I believe, the week following or the week of. I can't remember exactly what the date was. But they missed the deadline to talk to Jonathan Gannon. And since they progressed all the way to the Super Bowl, the Cardinals were not able to even get a first interview in with him until after the game. That's precisely why the Cardinals waited until the very, very last moment to interview Jonathan Gannon, because that was the very first moment they actually could with Monty Ossenfort as a new general manager. Gannon, let's call a spade. He was the guy from the start. They went through other potential candidates such as, Dan Quinn, Sean Payton, D'Amico Ryans, Brian Flores. They were never going to make a hire until they talked to Jonathan Gannon.
100%. And that's the way that it needed to be, Donnie. Like you said, call a spade a spade. This wasn't the process that everyone wanted it to be, but it's the process that it needed to be.
Yeah, they were the last team out of the 5 to hire a head coach, following very, very shortly behind the Indianapolis Colts, who officially hired Shane Steichen hours ago before the Cardinals actually went and made their move. But nonetheless, they took their sweet time. Like we said in the intro, 36 days. That's a long time. That's a very long time. The NFL Combine is 2 weeks away. Free agency will follow very shortly after that. Things are going. Things are trending in the NFL. Not the Super Bowl is over, and the offseason is officially here. It's a very long time. I know people are very impatient, but at the end of the day, the Cardinals got their guy. And one thing I really, really like about this is that so many people were tired of owner Michael Bidwell and how involved he was and how many hands he had in the process. This is a Monty Ossenfort hire. Granted, the graces of Michael Bidwell were obviously on the hire of Gannon. He's paying him out of his own pocket, but this was a Monty Ossenfort hire. This is the guy that Monty wanted from day one. So I think this might be a sign that Michael Bidwell is going to let people actually do their jobs as compared to previous regimes.
Nope, 100%. I really like that Bidwell is allowing Ossenfort to begin building this team in his own image and in his mindset of what he wants in his football team. Because that's the thing is like, yes, this is Bidwell's baby, but he needs to allow the general manager to be able to shape the team in the way that he believes would generate the most success. And for Gannon to be at the top of his list even before he began his head coaching search shows me that Bidwell is going to allow Austin Fort to do his due diligence and allow him to build that team in his image, like I said. So it's a process that needs to go the way that it's going right now. So as of right now, I think that this has been a good offseason for the Cardinals. And I think that it's a really strong start. I have some other thoughts about the way that things need to continue to progress, how they need to attack free agency in the draft and whatnot, but we'll get there when we get there.
No, of course. You kind of cross the bridge whenever you get there. I think you said that perfectly. And kind of just going over Gannon's previous history. First started as a defensive quality control coach in the NFL for the Atlanta Falcons. Eventually moved his way up, through the Minnesota Vikings organization. Also did work for Tennessee and Indianapolis as well before landing that defensive coordinator gig with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Richie, I do want to talk about that Super Bowl because that's been a very, very big talking point for Cardinals fans who did not want Jonathan Gannon. 38 points to the Kansas City Chiefs, losing on a game-losing field goal technically for them. I didn't walk away from that game like it was all Jonathan Gannon's fault. I just thought that the Chiefs made two better plays. One of them was a holding call from the officials. Let's also forget the punt return from Kadarius Toney that set them up in really good field position. Then let's also not forget the Jalen Hurts fumble, which led to a defensive touchdown for the Chiefs as well. So all in all, definitely not the most impressive showing at all. I think they were the second team in Super Bowl history to blow a double-digit lead after the Falcons. But if people want to harp on that, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. I think he's doing a pretty good job in San Francisco, no?
No, 100%. And I think the most frustrating thing for me, Donnie, is we're just coming up with reasons to be upset with Jonathan Gannon. It feels like we're poking holes in them, and it feels like they're very fringe things to be upset about. But to be upset about a Super Bowl that you lost to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy, come on, man. What are we doing here? That is the worst thing to be upset about. And it's like, oh, they didn't make second half adjustments. And it's like, do you realize what you're going up against? Like, this was just perfect execution by the Chiefs. Like, yes, things could have been better. They didn't get any sacks in this game, Donnie. They had 70 sacks all year, third most in a single season, did not bring Patrick Mahomes down once on a gimp ankle. I understand that's frustrating. But I also want to implore everyone to realize that this was not the worst performance they could have put together when you consider they're going against arguably the greatest offensive mind that has ever graced the NFL and one of the most talented quarterbacks that has ever graced the NFL. Like, this was always going to be a difficult game. And what I hate is people talk about the Cincinnati defensive coordinator and talk about how, oh, he schemed really good against Patrick Mahomes and everything. And okay, well, he's played Patrick Mahomes 4 times now. This was Gannon's first game as a defensive coordinator against Patrick Mahomes. Why are we like just so angry about one game performance when he's done the rest of it? Look at this graphic on the screen right now, Donnie. Top 10 defense in his 2 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. What are we doing here getting mad about one game? It's recency bias.
Yep, no, absolutely. And let's talk about the other 2 candidates he got promoted over. Louis Anarumo, the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator, like you already kind of touched on. So if you're not okay with losing to Mahomes in the Super Bowl, you're okay with losing to him in the conference championship game.
Yep, exactly.
And then let's go to Mike Kafka, who had his offense shut down in the divisional round by, you guessed it, Jonathan Gannon's Philadelphia Eagles. Yep. It's a very weird cycle, but to be fair, it's not just Cardinal fans. A lot of Eagles fans were very, very adamant on wanting him out. It's Philly. It's them losing a Super Bowl. I get it.
Philly
but I mean,
Reid, so
yep. People are just very much I don't want to say like groupthink, but when they don't know a lot about a certain guy or a certain candidate, and they find something on social media, and everybody seems to be talking about that particular topic. More times than not, people kind of just tend to favor whatever thought process that is. In this case, it's Jonathan Gannon all of a sudden overnight turned into a terrible defensive coordinator. He's not the right guy for the Cardinals job, X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, you can break it down all day, but I think at the end of the day, the Cardinals made a very, very conscious effort to go get a guy that's going to change the culture. And I mean, we brought it up in the podcast over the weekend before the Super Bowl. A lot of those Cardinals players that spoke at, Radio Row during Super Bowl week talked about just getting a guy who's going to be himself and who's going to command respect from top to bottom. And I think Gannon probably fits that bill the best. Not that Anarumo couldn't have done it, not that Kafka couldn't have done it, but I mean, there's a very, very clear reason why a guy like Austin Fort, who has been in successful organizations like the Patriots, like the Titans, who has evaluated talent for a very long time, wanted to speak with Jonathan Gannon.
Precisely. This is not a bad hire. This is a good hire. This could be a great hire. It is so unfortunate that his final game with Philadelphia, he had to go up against just the historic success that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have had, because it's going to taint everything that the Cardinals fans believe about him moving forward. But here's the other side of the coin, Donnie. You have the 3rd overall pick. You have Will Anderson and Jalen Carter that are likely going to be on the board for you. It's potentially both of them, and you can have your pick of the litter. That is going to give him an opportunity to start working on this defense and turn it around sooner rather than later. He gets to work with Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, who have tons of potential if they can be placed in the right situation. He will have the opportunity to work with Budda Baker, who's a top 5 safety in the NFL. They will have plenty of draft capital to address a cornerback room that needs reinforcements and a draft that has a lot of cornerback potential. This is going to be one of those teams where I'm not saying they're immediately going to be a top 10 team. I just don't see any way you don't see results in year 1 from this guy. But again, it's a long process, but as an overreaction kind of instant feelings on this is a good hire. And I think that this is going to pay dividends for the team moving forward.
No, absolutely. And to kind of put a bow on everything, this was Gannon whenever he first went to the Cardinals facility. Let me know if you can't hear it.
All right. We'll see you soon. He's in there?
Now it's a done deal.
Hey, right. Let's go. There you go. Let's go. Ready? Let's go. Let's go win. Got it? I got you.
Oh, I love to see that. Love to see
dude,
that.
Like
Multiple
for so much conversation on wanting Kyler to be happy with the head coach, him having a certain say or opinion on the next guy that's going to be brought in. There were a lot of concerns about Brian Flores potentially, coming into Arizona and not exactly getting along with Kyler. For a defensive-minded head coach like that to come in and immediately establish that kind of rapport, love to see it.
Yes, absolutely. That is 100% what you're hoping and looking for with this hire. So there you go, people. Like, Kyler Murray's happy. And whether or not you love or hate Kyler Murray, it's important that he's happy. Bottom line.
No, 100%. And that kind of leads me to the final talking point of where their staff is going to go from here, because a very big question mark around having a defensive guy is who's going to be the offensive coordinator, who's going to put guys like Kyler, Marquise Brown, and James Conner in positions to be successful moving forward. I think the Browns head coach, Drew Panitz, something like that, not head coach, the tight ends coach, is a candidate to be one of the offensive coordinators. Eric Bieniemy has been thrown around, which oddly enough by his agent. His agent came out and said that he was a potential candidate in Arizona, depending on who got hired. A couple of other different people, Brian Johnson, even though I think he's going to stick in Philly and get that promotion off the coordinator after Steichen left. Very interested to see how all of this kind of pans out offensively, right? Because you know the talent is there. You know what Kyler Murray can do whenever he's fully healthy. It's just really about getting that defense fixed, right? And that I guess another point we can throw in there too. What happens with Vance Joseph now?
Be really interesting to see the way everything unfolds. Obviously, this needs to be a Monty Ossenfort built team, but also a Jonathan Gannon built team. And Vance Joseph might be the odd man out. Real quick, though, how funny would it be for Bieniemy to be the offensive coordinator and just have the guy who took down Jonathan Gannon to come in and be his offensive coordinator now? Like that feels like poetry.
No, poetry to both of them ending up in Arizona where they faced off against each other too in the same stadium. Just
also very true.
Life works very, very weird. But after 36 days of waiting, the Arizona Cardinals do have their head coach. We will have tons more of analysis, news, updates, and more here at the All Cardinals YouTube channel and at allcardinals.com or sl.com/NFL/Cardinals. Richie, Jonathan Gannon is a guy in Arizona. Do you have any parting thoughts?
Love it. Absolutely love the hire. I hope that people can understand that one game does not define Jonathan Gannon. I understand it was the biggest stage in the NFL, but let's not overthink this. Guy is good.
Completely agreed. And I think that's the exact reason why he got the opportunity and why the Cardinals didn't even let him get back on the team plane. They kept him in Arizona both Monday and Tuesday to interview with him. But they seem to like him. I seem to like him too. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with them a little bit later in the week. Guys, thank you so much for supporting us. We really do appreciate it. Tons more content coming your way, and we'll see you guys soon.